What's cracking, everyone? My name is Ryan, aka Skeeb23, and this is my audio and tech channel. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Auteur Classic from ZMF. Now, shout out to ZMF for sending this out to me for review. All thoughts and opinions are of my own. I'm not being paid one way or the other to say anything about this particular headphone. So first of all, this does retail in at $14.99, so this is more of your high-end headphone, of course, but it's also a ZMF staple at the same time. Now, this particular wood cups on this headphone is made of the Ambrosia Maple for reference, and this does come in a magnesium or aluminum type chassis, depending on which option you choose. The magnesium can lower the weight, which the weight of this headphone does come in right at around 490 grams, although this one, to be perfectly honest with you, feels lighter than that, just because my Atrium was also said to be about the same, and this definitely feels lighter than the Atrium. Could have something to do with the wood cup, different wood being used here as well. Now, mine did come with the lambskin Auteur pads, but they were kind enough to send over some Icon suede pads as well for me to use with this headphone, which I will talk to you guys about during the sound section of this review. Now, these do have the same ZMF biocellulose drivers that are made exactly for the Auteur Classic, and that does actually include the Atrium damping system. And then a special note for anyone out there that does own the OG Auteur, you can get an upgrade of this headphone for the Auteur Classic. I believe it's for $4.99 from ZMF. So I'm going to read you exactly what you get from the Auteur Classic upgrade should you have the regular Auteur, and this is straight from the ZMF site, so not my words, but the words of ZMF, more than likely Zach over at ZMF. So with the Auteur Classic, you'll get everything the original Auteur had with the addition of a larger stage, more linear sub bass, more resolution, and lower THD. I wouldn't recommend this upgrade if I didn't think it was worthy, as my intent at ZMF has been to have each product be a final form. If you love your OG Auteur, an upgrade is certainly not necessary. And separate from that, I would like to explain also what the Atrium damping system is, which I really would have liked to have shared in my Atrium review, so I'm going to read that off to you guys right now. With the Atrium damping system for open headphones, it allows us another layer of optimization, making sure that the airflow and damping system is perfect for each driver. With so many possible damping materials in existence, from foams to alternative materials and beyond, the placement method of that material that the Atrium system imparts allows the designer the ultimate voicing of each system. So now that we got the specs out of the way, guys, I do want to talk to you about the comfort of the Auteur Classic, at least to me. So it is a little bit lighter on the head. Still, the Atrium was definitely not heavy, so either of them have been fine comfort-wise. I did have to bend this ZMF as well, just like I did the Atrium, because the shape out of the box did not form my head the way I would like, but once I bent it, everything was perfectly comfortable. Again, no issues at all with comfort and for longer listening sessions, because obviously with doing this review, I've had some very long listening sessions with the Auteur Classic. Now, the rest of the build that we can talk about here, obviously just like the Atrium, this has got the same build type of any other ZMF headphone, as you'll see, looking over next to me here with the Auteur Classic. You get the ZMF headband, you get the cups that come with it, your preference on that. You're going to get the cable, and then you get the optional cable. So typically, I would think most people would get the, single-ended cable and then the optional balance, whether it's, the 4.4, an XLR, something of that nature. That is up to you. Or you can even upgrade your cable from ZMF for an additional cost there. You can add on an amp. You can, do lots of different things you want to do when you're going through the ordering process of ZMF. But that $14.99 price point will get you the headphone, no magnesium, the aluminum chassis on that, and then you do get the two cables as well as the additional set of pads straight from ZMF. So the very first impression right out of the gate is that these are definitely a mid-forward presentation. Mid-forward as in you're going to hear those vocals right up in your face. You're going to hear the, the mids right up in your face, but not in your face so much that they are shouty or offensive or anything. It's just, again, it's just mid-forward. A good comparison I would give to this would be if you've heard a Focal Clear MG. I had the Clear MG Pros for some time. Really reminded me of that. But the biggest difference here that you get with the Auteur is that presentation is there, but you also get stage imaging. You get space with it, which is pretty impressive to be able to get space when you have that going on, because sometimes that can limit that part of it. And then also with that, different song samples and tracks, I always got that mid-forward presentation from this headphone. So, think of Norah Jones, some songs that she has a very mid-forward voice anyway. So does Adele at times. But never in a piercing way, never in a shouty way from this headphone did I get that, unless the track was, presented that way. I'm not going to say as artist intended, because to me, that's not a thing. But definitely, as I said, you're just getting that mid-forward presentation. You also get a nice presentation in the upper mids and the starting of the treble range, to where you're not getting sibilance here. This is just it's just a smooth listen. And I feel like I'm repeating myself from my Atrium review, but this truly to me is kind of like a baby Atrium, with the exception that you're getting that mid-forward focus to you. So, and I apologize, I'm kind of jumping around here because now I'm going to go backwards and talk about the low end too. The low end's great. You get a nice smooth low end on this. It is very present. You get some extension there. It's not boomy, but it's there, and it really depends on the pads. And I know it's going to depend on your source too. This being a 300 ohm headphone, you're going to get some different things depending on your sources used. In this headphone, you kind of get all of the frequency range in there. You're going to get every part of it. To me, it sounded good, no matter what part of the frequency response I was listening to. Some headphones are said to be more for this focus of genre or this focus of genre. To me, the Auteur Classic and the Atrium, for that matter, can really, interchange, intermix with all different genres and sound good with all of them. What you're going to lose out some from the Auteur to the Atrium, I'll talk about here pretty soon. But, let's just stay focused on the Auteur right now, and just that it was just a pleasant and smooth, fantastic listen. In fact, so fantastic, I cannot wait to listen to it on a tube amp that I'm building my bottle head crack. I would like to be able to get another tube amp in at some point to listen to this on a different tube as well. Right now, this is only going off of a solid state amp that I've got it paired with. So still, I am very impressed with this headphone on the sound so far. And I always like to give you guys some song examples and things that I listen to, so that, should you get a chance, you can, pop those up as well. So the song Gone Away by Offspring, I talk about this a lot in my reviews just because I like this, newer alternative version that they put out, that you get the orchestra in there. On the Auteur Classic, his voice, the piano at the beginning, all of that is very mid-forward, as I said, and it sounds fantastic. When that orchestra pops up in there throughout the track, more towards, the middle part, I would say, to the end, it's not quite as pronounced and detailed as maybe on the Atrium or on something like an Aria Stealth or something like that. But the vocals never lose it in this track, and it sounds just so very good, in my opinion. And then another track that I like to sample a lot of times in my headphones that actually was really fun to listen to was Bubbles by Yoshi Horikawa. Now, this one was interesting in the fact that I've not heard this song on a mid-forward presentation since the, as I said, the Focal Clear MG. And I didn't really care for that song necessarily, that track necessarily on that headphone, but on the Auteur, I listened to it start to finish because I was like, wow, this is really cool. Just the exact pinpoint location of the sounds. So think imaging here. How they sounded. I mean, we're talking about very accurate presentations of what his different, objects he was using to sample that track. You could definitely get that on the Auteur Classic with the, the mid-forward presentation of that. So that just sounded wonderful in my opinion. And then another song was, and I apologize, I'm looking down at my song sample list so I don't tell you guys wrong. Another song was Small Hours by John Martin. Now, this was a new one that I popped up and started listening to. I think I had it on a random track, but for this one, this is very much a stage sampling song, if you will. He's playing the guitar outside and you hear the resonation of the guitar. You just hear all the sounds, filling the area, and you feel like you're sitting in an arena with him. This was very cool on the Auteur Classic because you get that upfront presentation while you're getting just that fullness of the stage there. I wouldn't necessarily compare this one to the Atrium because that was just a whole different experience in Excel for the different layers and things you get on, but another very, just wonderful song and track to sample on the Auteur Classic. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk to you guys about, as I do with every review, is gaming. And yes, I gamed with the Auteur Classic. Yes, I will continue to game with the Auteur Classic. Yes, I wish I had this to own for the Auteur Classic for gaming. Now we're talking about a $1,500 headphone for gaming. And I could say you can call me nuts, but look at all the people out there at the HD 800S that are using that for gaming. And that, obviously goes up higher than this one. The Auteur Classic was awesome with gaming. I mean, probably the best headphone I've heard on gaming of any headphone that I own. So that says a lot because I've got the Atriums too, as you guys know, and I'm not saying that was bad. This was just so cool. I was afraid when I first loaded up a game with the mid-forward presentation that things may be a little too loud and in my face, but that actually turned out to be not the opposite, but just wrong in the fact that things were, yes, they were loud, they were in your face, but they are presented so well, it was engaging. It just was immersive. But at the same time, you do get, this is not a dark presentation, so you could hear footsteps, you could hear things coming around you. I had no problem pinpointing objects when I was playing games. And I did different games with this than I did probably in the past. If you guys ever heard of a game called Ascent, it's a top-down game. I played that with it. That sounded fantastic on it. Played Battlefield again, Ark again, other games. And like I said, this is a headphone that possibly you could use for competitive. Now, I don't know because I'm not a competitive player. I'm just not that good. But, for those of you out there that get a chance to get this headphone to try it, I would love to know. Let me know in the comments if you think this would be a competitive gaming headphone because it was pretty damn impressive. And I guess I'll leave it there at that for gaming. All right, so now I'm going to move on and talk to you guys about the different pad options that you get with ZMF and at least with the Auteur Classic. So Zach sent over the Icon suede pads for this headphone for me to sample on. Now the Icon suede pads are actually pads that are supposed to make this even a little bit warmer. What I actually found, and it was interesting to me, was I got a little shout by using those pads. So much in the fact that I didn't enjoy them. I listened to a few tracks just to make sure it wasn't just a one-off of a certain track I was listening to. But, when I would hear some vocals and things, it was just a little bit too shouty. I put on Norah Jones right away because she just, I don't know, always comes to mind when I think of somebody that can get shouty on a shouty headphone. And she did. So the suede pads, did they make things a little warmer on the lower end? They might have, but the shout was enough that I just didn't enjoy that presentation for me. Now, this could be just maybe that range is more sensitive to my ears, so maybe for somebody else it's not. But for me, the Icon pads were, at least the suede, was a no-go. Now, the lambskin could have been a different situation, but I didn't have those to try. All right, so then the Universe pads I happen to have on hand from having the Atrium, so I went ahead and threw on the Universe lambskin pads. And to be perfectly honest with you, for this particular pad combination with the Auteur Classic, I also did not enjoy this. I found it to make things a little more flat, limp, however you want to call that. The low end wasn't quite as present, and for me, I personally like that in my headphones and my sound signature. So now I could see this if somebody's wanting a more neutral, just a more neutral response. You may like the Universe, as I should say, but honestly, it wasn't something that I personally enjoyed. Again, this is where that preference comes in from ZMF and giving you that option to choose. I just personally did not enjoy that option for the few songs, tracks, and examples and things that I tested. All right, so then going into power requirements, as you guys know, I have the Jotunheim 2 and Modius for my desktop stack. That's what I use to power the Auteur Classic. Now, in this particular scenario, I actually did find that I preferred the balanced over the single-ended. If you remembered with my Atrium review, either of them sounded perfectly fine to me, but the reason I think I prefer the balanced on this time around, with it being that mid-forward presentation, the Jotunheim 2 is said to be more transparent on balanced, a little bit more on the warmer side with the single-ended. Now, this can depend on the headphone, on whether or not you pick that up. My Radiance definitely did as well. So with the Auteur Classic, I preferred balance. Now then, moving on to a portable solution, I did use my iFi Go Bar with this, and the Go Bar works, of course. I did have to pretty much crank it up on the volume to get the max that I could out of it to, get to a good listening level. Now this is with the 3.5 mil port. I didn't have a 4.4 port to pair with this, so I would have got a little more power out of that. And then the X-Bass, again, as with the Atrium, same with the Auteur Classic, didn't really seem to make a difference here. And I think a lot of this can be the fact that this is a 300 ohm headphone being powered off a portable device that really wasn't made for headphones probably that power hungry with the ohms as they are. Now, mileage may vary with different portable units, but for the iFi Go Bar, this works perfectly fine if you're just wanting to throw it in a bag, take it to go, and listen, just casually. But if you want to do more analytical and get that full sense of the headphone, then yeah, definitely a desktop setup such as my Jotunheim 2 Modia seems to work better. And I cannot wait to try this on a tube amp. I know I keep saying that. Got to build that bottlehead crack. Got to do it. And then the last thing I'd like to do is touch on some comparisons here because I did get a chance to do that a little bit. First comparison I want to give you, I think I've already touched on the Atrium quite a bit throughout this review. So the first one I'll give you guys is the Radiance. Now I know the Radiance is a closed back headphone, but price range, we're looking pretty similar between that and the Auteur Classic, and I happen to own them. So that's the easiest thing for me to do is compare something that I own. The Radiance is going to give you more low end. It's going to give you more thump. I shouldn't say more low end, but just more quantity of low end. So if you have that type of preference, I think the Radiance does it for you there, or at least it did it for me there. But with the Radiance, you don't get that mid forward, and then you do get a little tamer treble response, I would say, but then details probably get more out of the Auteur Classic. But then it's a closed back for the Radiance, so you get that isolation. So, really it's going to trade blows left and right when it comes to those two headphones, depending on what you're looking for on a preference base. But they both have that nice punch and slam, I would say, that you get from a Focal. Same, like I said, for the Clear MG. But then stage definitely is going to go to the Auteur Classic. Imaging probably going to lean that towards the Auteur Classic as well. And then the Aria Stealth, I've still got that one on hand. The Aria Stealth also sounds very, very good. It is also something that is in that price range of the Auteur Classic. Now we're talking planar compared to dynamic. So you're going to get that, instrument separation and things of a planar out of the Aria Stealth. And the bass is just different, I would say. It's more in your chest bass that you get with that planar, but it's probably not quite as full. And maybe not quite as engaging sometimes depending on the tracks. Now, if you're somebody that is very classical, jazz-focused genre listener, then the Aria Stealth is probably going to be your way to go. But if you're more of kind of like me, I kind of listen to everything, probably enjoy rock and things a little more than I would other genres, then definitely for me, it's the Auteur Classic. Definitely for gaming, it's the Auteur Classic, although you can't really go wrong with the Aria Stealth either. In either of those scenarios. Plus you're going to get stage on both of those, just different types of stage as far as height, width, and that kind of thing for that comparison. Power wise also, I should have touched on that. Obviously the Radiance and the Aria Stealth are going to be easier to power than the Auteur Classic, so those could be some considerations for you there as well. So that is going to pretty much wrap up my review and impressions of the Auteur Classic. I hope to be getting my tube built and to be getting maybe some tubes in before I have to send these back over to ZMF just to get that impression out and definitely let you guys know about that. But I have thoroughly enjoyed this headphone and I cannot wait to continue to enjoy them while I have them because, it's a guilty pleasure to game with these things right now, as I have said, and to listen to a lot of the music. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be sad to be listening to my Atrium just as much because the Atrium is an incredible headphone and I could not be happier with that purchase of that. But the Auteur Classic is going to have a place in my heart and possibly in my future collection should I get a chance to get them. I didn't really give you guys a lot of, I guess, cons or negativity on the Auteur Classic, and that's only because I've enjoyed them so much. If I were to give them one, I would probably say, honestly, the look of the Auteur Classic is not really my flavor, the color of the wood and that kind of thing, but that is a nitpick for a company that's putting a lot into their build. So take that with a grain of salt. You know, some people are going to prefer this look anyway. It's just really not mine. That's why I got the Atriums. I love the aged copper and that cherry, you know, color of their headphone. But again, there's going to be different options you'll be able to get with the Auteur Classic, even if you didn't like that look. So like I said, very, you know, minor nitpick when it comes to that. And the mid-forwardness, that's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to enjoy something like that. And if you need a little more spiciness in the treble, again, you're not going to get that out of this. Although with some pad swapping, you know, you could find something that's more in your flavor. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that review and impression. I know I've definitely enjoyed the Auteur Classic. You know, if you have, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for future content, and I will let all of you get back to doing whatever it is that you do. I'm going to get back to doing all the things that I do, and in the meantime, I will see you in the next one.